So today's Sunday. It's the 11th week of the year, which is why I write that it's week number 11. And it's the first day of Parshat Vayigash, the Torah portion that we read on. We'll read on Shabbos in 6 days, God willing. And we're going to be learning the mimer called וילקט יוסף, which means Joseph gathered the silver in Egypt and in the land of Canaan. And silver, here it's important to know, doesn't just mean the silver itself. As we'll see, this has a lot to do with what we learned some time ago. I was trying to connect the, sorry, just a second. So we learned this a while ago about Abraham. And as regular participants shuffle in, we'll start. So we're on page...
himself because you'd like to have someone intelligent to talk to.
Right. Not a news anchor man. I don't know how to talk to the camera.
Okay.
Anyway.
Page 60.
So it's on the other side of 86.
86.
Mem Dalet. Mem Dalet Bet. And the mimer is וילקט יוסף את כל הכסף הנמצא בארץ מצרים ויבא יוסף את הכסף ביתה פרעה. So Yosef gathered all the silver, but as we'll see here it means money, that was in Egypt, and he brought the money to Pharaoh's household. So for some reason the pasuk is cut short. Like part of it is missing. In the middle it says הנמצא בארץ מצרים. The pasuk says all the silver, all the money that was in Egypt and in the land of Canaan. So
Yeah, the whole world. Then correct.
no, it doesn't say in the whole world. It just says
He
these two
collected
places.
all the money in the world.
So that's inferred from the fact that nobody else had. But in terms of the, so we'll see at the end, the Alter Rebbe, not the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, he gives an explanation of why the pasuk just gives these two places. Okay. In Vayigash there are two maimarim, two essays. The first one is called Vayigash Rav Yehuda Ve'omer Bi Adoni. And Yehuda came close to Joseph, even though it does mention Joseph's name in the first pasuk of the parsha. And we're not going to learn this mimer, even though in terms of how let's call it how current events it is, like how much it's related to everyday life today. The first mimer is might be said to be even more relevant. The first mimer deals with the status of women, but I'm not going to get into it this year too much. And I haven't had a chance to teach this mimer in a long time. So we're going to focus on this one. This is not less interesting. It's even more interesting in some ways. Okay. So Hinam Azal. So the sages say about this that Joseph gathered all the money in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, and in Canaan. Shalosh Mטמוניות הטמין Yosef. So he took all this money that he gathered,
Made 3 mountains.
and he made 3 treasures. What would you call it? Mounds?
Mountains of silver.
Mountains of silver. But mטמוניות means that he concealed them,
Right.
that he placed them somewhere, like as a treasure. אחת נתגלתה לקרח. One was revealed by Korach. Korach was in Moshe Rabbeinu's generation.
Oh, so he secreted them away.
And he's just, right, he concealed them. He put them in some kind of treasure houses. And they were concealed for a long time. So the first one was revealed to Korach, apparently when they were still in Egypt. And Korach became the richest man alive at the time. And the second, ואחת נגלתה לאנטונינוס. So this Antoninus is apparently the same Antoninus that was Rebbe's friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's not clear who this person was. If you look
This
in,
is still
you
Marcus
see all kinds of-
Aurelius you're talking
But I
about?
think that he's Marcus Aurelius. But you can't know for sure. In any case, he was the Roman Caesar. He was the emperor in the time of the writing of the Mishnah, at least in the early stages. And he was in Israel in the land of Israel for about 3 or 4 years, which was when he met Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So now we're talking about the year 200 CE. So these two were found, but there's still a third mountain of silver or gold or money that was never revealed. That's what the Gemara says, which is a very interesting thing to say. How they know this, who knows? But we want to understand this. What do you mean? What's this whole thing? What does it mean? Why does the Torah have to tell us that Joseph gathered all the silver, all the money? Why do the sages have to tell us that he concealed it in 3 different treasures? All this is very
Mysterious.
Irrelevant. Mysterious is a nice word. Irrelevant is more like it. Like, who cares? Unless you think unless you're looking for
Treasure map.
For X marks the spot.
We're still looking
Apart
for
from
King
that-
Solomon's. It's still looking for King Solomon's treasure.
So if you're a normal person and you want to live your life, so who cares? Why does the Gemara have to tell me this? Why does the Torah have to tell me this? So somebody would tell me, you lack a sense of adventure. True. I lack a sense of adventure. I think the adventure is somewhere else. ולהבין זה. To understand this, the Alter Rebbe also thought this was a little irrelevant in the way that it was described. So we have to understand what this is all symbolizing. What's going on here? הנה כתיב, אור זרוע לצדיק. That the tzaddik has light that is called it planted or placed in the ground. So he's investing.
You missed out the last half of the previous sentence.
Yeah?
You didn't read that down, לצדיקים.
גנוזה לצדיקים, sorry. The most important part. That one of these treasures, says the Talmud, will be revealed to the tzadikim in the future.
Yeah.
And what do they need this for?
I'm here.
What?
I'm here.
What do you mean?
I'm here.
The tzaddik is here.
I'm waiting for my money.
So, you got to prove yourself.
Humble too.
So we'll see if you... It's very strange that you just did that, because when I was preparing it on Shabbos, so I did think that you would connect to it very strongly. And I thought that you would come out with a different understanding of everything you've done until now. So, but that's... I thought...
You don't know the famous story of the Reverend Purim?
With being rich.
Yeah,
Yeah, you told me.
yeah. So then 25 to 30
Yeah,
years
yeah.
later.
Somebody came
So
and
I'm
said,
here.
I'm here. That's what you meant. Okay. But, so there's a concept that tzedakah is something that the tzaddik gives tzedakah, he gives charity, and the charity is something that you plant in the ground. We also say that in davening every morning, זורע צדקות, מצמיח ישועות, that you plant וידוע דהיינו בחינת אור קדמאה דהוה נהיר מסייפי עלמא עד סייפי עלמא דגניס קודשא בריך הוא לצדיקאי. And there it's talking about what Hashem did. When it says Or Zerua L'Tzadik, when it says the tzaddik has some planted tzedakah that he uncovers, so there it's talking about the light that Hashem planted in the world when he created the world, right? How did it work? Then on the first day of creation he revealed the light. God said, let there be light. Let there be is not exactly the right translation, but let's say, so let there be light, and there was light. But that light, he saw that it was good. And Rashi says right away, what does it mean that it's good? That it's good for being archived, like hidden away. Because it's too good for this world. Like this type of light reveals too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called that it reveals from the end of the world until the end of the world. The light that we use doesn't reveal anything. In fact, the light that we use conceals. What does it reveal? It reveals the physical contours of the world. But it conceals the presence of Hashem.
It reveals what we can't see.
Yeah.
So it conceals what we
The light
can't
that
see.
we have is actually the opposite of the original light.
Why did you say the light conceals?
Because the moment you
Gashmias
see,
conceals,
yeah,
sure.
because you can't. You didn't see the Gashmias until there was light.
It's not the light's fault.
It's not its fault,
It's
but
your
that's what it
fault.
reveals. It
It's your
reveals
fault that
how
you're
the
looking at
Gash
the
was
table and
conceived.
don't see Hashem
Yeah,
inside.
but it
The
reveals.
light would reveal you Hashem.
No,
If
No,
you knew how to
can't.
look at the table. If you knew how to look at the table and understand what was there.
That's something else, not with this light. This light is how it is. What it reveals to me is the table in its physical form, and in the way that the physical form conceals God. That's what it reveals. That's what it reflects off of. It doesn't reflect off
That's
of
because you're not
godliness.
looking properly.
What?
That's 'cause you're not
that's
looking
already in your
properly.
head. I'm thinking about the physical stam pshat. The stam literal meaning of light today is that it reveals the physical world. That's what visible light is. It bounces off physical objects.
Reveals this that you're reading now. Reveals all sorts of holy
So
things.
this is not light. This I can't put it in a room and suddenly it'll be illuminated. What are you saying? You're saying that when this book, its contents,
Is
enter
internalized.
my mind, it allows me to see the world in a
Transcendence.
different light. But it's not the physical light that we have. It's the opposite of the physical light that we have. So this light is usually, it said that it was archived, it was concealed inside the Torah. And the Torah even means light. One of the meanings of Torah Zua means light. So what the Torah allows a person to do is to change the way his mind works. Instead of being taken and enthralled by the physical substance of the world, when a person learns Torah, he begins to see the spiritual side of the world. And when he begins to see the spiritual side, he begins to reveal Hashem. So in that sense, that light was concealed. It was planted inside the Torah. But that's not the end of the story. So to understand, one way of understanding this whole idea of planting light is to look at a certain process that occurs in our psyche. Okay? And how does this work? So this is a theme that appears throughout Chassidus, that there are two different types of love of God, two different types of connection to Hashem. האחד, the first one is, בחינת בעבודת אהבה נולדת ונמשכת מן ההתבוננות בגדולת אור אינסוף ברוך הוא. So the first type of love is the type of love that comes out of a person's thinking, out of his understanding, out of his meditation. On thinking, when he thinks about the object of his meditation is God's greatness. Then he comes to love Hashem. That's what the Rambam says in the beginning of the Yad, beginning of his corpus of mitzvahs. He says there's a mitzvah to love and fear God. And how do you come to that? You have to meditate on something. You have to think about something. That's what we also explained last week. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad means, Shema means understand that Hashem Elokeinu, the God is, Havaya is our God, and He is one. So when you meditate on that, when you think about that, and you actually have to close your eyes so that you're not confused by the physical world, because you have to enter into what your mind understands, regardless of what the physical world tells you. Then you come to love God. And this is what we call meditative love, or it's love that comes out of a person's mind. So, let's give a different example so that it's clear. I've never been to, Sicily. But if I see pictures of it, and I read about it, I can begin to create a connection in my heart. Meaning I feel a profound connection to this place, and I say, I would really like to visit that place. Even though it's not in front of me, I've never seen it, I've never been there, and so on and so forth. So there are emotions that are conceived and born from the mind's understanding. Okay?
Because you ascribe them.
What do you mean by ascribe?
You project your emotions to the thoughts, to the
No.
imagery that you received.
No. The mind has an ability to create emotions, but these emotions are not physical emotions.
They're not real. You're ascribing them. You're feeding them.
They're real, but they're mindful emotions. They're called midot shebasechel, or midot shebamochim. They're the emotions in the mind. So somebody asked you a question, which is very important. He says, people's mind can still be poisoned inside. Why should closing the eyes change anything? Then the closing the eyes doesn't help. You have to learn Torah. but not to confuse you from what you see outside. So then the closing of the eyes helps in that regard. But the closing the eyes by itself is not very helpful. It's just not to be confused, just to be able to concentrate.
Meditate.
To concentrate on what's inside my head and not on what I see around me, and not to be confused by what I see around me. But if a person's mind is warped, so he needs a lot of Torah to get it out, to straighten the mind. So first, ראשון הוא בחינת אהבה נולדת ונמשכת מן ההתבוננות בגדולת אור אינסוף ברוך הוא. כשיעמיק בשכלו ברוממות גדולתו יתברך, ייוולד מזה התפעלות בתשוקה והתלהבות אליו יתברך. So the more a person deepens his understanding, the more he goes into something and he thinks about it and he develops it. And in other places, the Mittler Rebbe explains that what does it mean to develop something? That you have to see parallels. You have to take something that you're learning, which is exactly what he's doing here. He's taking a concept called zrua la'tzadikim, and he's going to explain it now in a completely different way. He's using a different system to explain the same concept. And that's how you learn, that you have something that you understand and you use that
To build
as
upon.
a metaphor to understand things that you don't understand yet. That's how learning is built. So the more things you know, the more systems you know, the more systems of sfirot or yud-kei vav-kei that you know, the more you can parallel them, and the deeper your understanding becomes, because each time that you go from one system to another, there's more and more detail that's added to everything that you understand. But the main point here is that it creates emotions in the mind. These are called the emotions of the mind. It's not necessarily something that a person feels in his heart, because it's not in the heart. If anything, it'll be projected at some point. But it doesn't even have to be projected. You don't ever have to feel it. As we'll see, that's the point here. That you don't actually have to experience the love or the attachment. It just has to be in your mind. There's a big difference between the emotions in the mind and emotions in the heart. That's going to be the topic.
That's what I meant by ascribing, by the way.
Projecting.
Yeah, projecting.
כשיעמיק בשכלו ברוממות גדולתו יתברך, ייוולד מזה התפעלות בתשוקה והתלהבות אליו יתברך. So he says here, really, the language here is interesting because it like seems to confuse the two things together. So the way to understand this is that here he means that the understanding of the mind is so strong that it does project into the heart. And so the person does feel excitement about what he understands. So you have to understand that in Chabad, in the first two generations, this was a big source of contention, these words. Not just here, but in other places where the Alter Rebbe explained them. He noted them. There was a question about whether in Chabad, in the system of Chabad, whether a person should ever feel excited. Should you
Excited?
go out of your... Should you express excitement? If you go to see how...
Define excitement.
It's very easy. Go to Karlin, see how they daven.
Okay.
And they daven with all their body, with all their... And you see that...
That's joy.
I don't know if it's joy. It's excitement, meaning they express what they feel. And in Chabad, there was an understanding then that the Alter Rebbe wanted, and we'll understand from this Maimer why, that he wanted all the emotions to be intellectual emotions,
Hidden.
concealed, not to be felt, not to be experienced. And so Chabad also received this image. People had this image of it as being a very cold Russian type of Chassidus, and the Polish Chassidus was much more warm, and even the southern part of Poland, Galicia, that was completely like considered to be, people that were overflowing with emotion. And so there was this thing that they understood in the first two generations, that you're not supposed to express any emotion. It's supposed to be cold.
How does that reconcile with joy?
Feel joy inside. Joy is not even an emotion. Joy is still
But it was the fundamental principle of the Baal Shem Tov's teachings.
Who said that? He said that you should jump up and down. You should be overwhelmed, but without expressing it. That was the...
I think the word you want is geschmack.
You have a taste of it. There's a taste, there's a geschmack in it, but there's no expression of it. In fact, the contention around this was so strong that in the second generation, Chabad split into two over it. It was the Rav Aaron of Strashala and the Midler Rebbe. And Rav Aaron said that, no, you're not allowed to express anything at all. And he said, it's very interesting how the whole thing was with him. When the Alter Rebbe used to say Torah, they say that Rav Aaron had to tie himself with his gartel to the table. Because he was so moved by what he was hearing that he would mamish fly. It's like he'd jump up and down, he could break his neck. He was so enthralled, he was so taken in, so excited by it. The Midler Rebbe, on the other hand, he was very cold. Nobody saw him move. When he davened, there was once a joke that was played on him because it was such a, he was so
Contained.
contained inside his thoughts. They once when he davened for a long, long time, people came, they turned him around, and he didn't even feel. He turned around in the middle of his davening, picked him up, and he didn't know that anybody was touching him. He was so contained inside his thoughts. So there was a whole contention about what does it need to be like. So in the end, the Midler Rebbe became the Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe. And then in order to explain the whole sugya, to explain this whole topic, he wrote a kuntras called Kuntras Palut, the pamphlet of excitation. And there he explains that my father never meant that there should be no outward expression of emotion. What he did mean is that you shouldn't focus on that. Don't make it happen. If it happens by itself, it's okay. But not if you force it to happen. And so by other places he argued that what they do is they force their feelings to excite their body. Meaning they express it outwards with force. Whereas the whole system that the Baal Shem Tov taught was not to do it by force, because if it's forced, it's actually artificial. So people who jump up and down, like trying to feel something, so he says that's fake. Not only is it fake, it's a form of, again, in spirituality, it's a form of a very delicate idolatry. Because what is a person looking for? He's looking for the experience. He's looking for something. And this, by the way, was a big break, even though it's not discussed this way, but this is one of the reasons why Shlomo Karlebach had to leave Chabad. Because he, I don't know how he was personally, I think he was a very deep person, but he tried to get people excited. He said the only way you can get to them today is if you excite them externally. If you excite them externally, something opens up. Said it could be. But by Chabad that didn't work. That wasn't the way. In any case, in this generation, everything's become like complex. But
So the Breslov also.
not only that, Reb Nachman writes that when a person wakes up in the morning, he has to do anything he can in order to feel excitement.
Yeah.
Anything. Just not to be that emotionless. Not to feel like you came out of a crypt. He says anything you can do. Doesn't matter what it is. Real, not real, fake. Put on trance music. That's what they do. Whatever moves you. As long as you move. As long as you're not dead.
Okay, so you can't reconcile all these? You can't synthesize these things?
You can't really reconcile them. So, as we learned in this mimer, in this essay, so the Alter Rebbe has a very particular take on all of this. He says this has to do with a lot of things, and really, as he'll hint, the sugya, the real issue here, is not whether you're excited or not. That's not the real issue. The real issue is, whatever you're doing, are you searching for yourself or for God? That's the issue. Are you looking to experience whatever it is? It doesn't have to be excitation. It doesn't have to be love or fear. It doesn't have to be, in fact, it doesn't even have to be when you're davening or when you're learning.
Right.
It's in everything that you do in life. What are you searching for? If you're searching for yourself, so that's what he's going to say is a lower level of service.
But searching for yourself could be a conduit to finding Hashem.
Say it. We'll see.
Like for somebody who's completely lost,
We'll see.
that they don't know who they are themselves, how can they know who God is?
We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Why did he start out
Who was
with
the
this?
third group in Yaakov? Who was the third?
What? The third,
Who was the third group?
third group?
Apart from the middle Rebbe and the
The
stone shed.
Pharaoh.
There's someone else, no. Someone else also wanted to take over. Pretty good right to that. In his Zichronis.
Who ended up being the
The middle Rebbe.
he was the writer? Who was the writer?
What do you mean the writer?
There was like one of, I can't remember his name now. He's the one who brought down the writings of Baal Shem Tov down.
No, that's the Yaakov Yosef of Palan.
Yeah,
He was very intellectual.
yeah, but he
And
was
not
also a
that he
contender.
ever-
He was also a contender. Must have
For
been
what?
the mantle.
No.
No, he died long before.
He died long before the Alter Rebbe.
I understand. 2 generations
We were
prior.
talking about from the Alter Rebbe.
Ah, okay.
From the Baal Shem Tov and on, it divided already in different directions.
The
But the question was, how was the Baal Shem Tov? What was the Maggid like? The Maggid was undoubtedly
intellectual.
intellectual. There's no
100%.
question in the world that he could
No
not
question.
express emotion.
No question.
So the Alter Rebbe, the way he received it was directly from how the Maggid was, how the Maggid of Mezrich was.
Maybe the teacher also received it from the Maggid. It was pure emotion.
So the question is, you say it's hard to hear, so maybe I'll just hold it like this, and hopefully it's better. Okay. So now, כי לפי שכלו יעולה לאיש, שהמידות נמשכים אחר השכל וההתבוננות. Because the heart's emotions do follow the mind and one's thinking, one's understanding, or one's meditation. And this type of love, אהבה זו, היא בחינת הולדה חדשה שנמצאת מחדש על ידי השכל וההתבוננות. So this is a new type of love. It's not something that you had before. It comes out of the meditation, and that's why it's projected on the heart. It's actually projected. And you do feel it. And the point is that it's new. And later on, he's going to give us another way of understanding this. He's going to say that when you plow a field, there's the new grain, new seeds that you put in. We began with planting. So there's what you plant in new every year. But there's also what grows by itself, and you see this especially in the Shemitah year, in the 7th year, when you're not allowed to plow the land, you're not allowed to work the land, but the land still gives the same crop that it did the year before, because there's still grains and there's still seed inside. And this happens regardless of what type of, regardless of what type of crop you had the previous year. It's called sfichim in Hebrew. And it happens by itself. So it was concealed inside the land and it comes out. Okay, so but here we're talking about the new plowing. You went and you plowed a new, again, the heart is like some kind of field that you're plowing and you're growing something new in. ויש בחינה שנייה באהבה, והוא נקרא אהבה מסותרת. Second type of love, which is the main type of love that he discusses in the Tanya, is love. It seems that the small black microphone doesn't work. I don't know. Why is it not working?
Is it disconnected?
Can you check? I think it's...
You want to switch this on?
No, first of all. Let's see here. Okay. So, the second type of love is what's called concealed love. And it's there from somewhere else. It's not because you meditated, it's not because you thought about something, it's not because you learned Torah. It's a natural love. שהיא אהבה שיש בטבע תולדת הנפש האלוקית. And this is the natural love that's ingrained into the divine soul. שהיא חפצה בטבעה להתקלל באין סוף ברוך הוא, שהוא מקורה ושורשה. And this love is like the love of attraction back to its source. That the divine soul always wants to return to its source, which is in the infinite. אלא שיצלו בחינת העלם והסתר גדול. But in a regular person, it's in a concealed state. ויציאתה אל הגילוי הוא על ידי התבוננות. But it's revealed in the same way. But it's not something new. It's revealed also through Torah learning. It's revealed also through understanding. Without learning Torah, this love won't come out. But it's not something new. You didn't create it from your understanding. You didn't create it from your learning. It's just something that you have naturally inside because of your divine soul. כמו שכתוב בתניא, and this is, like we said, this is the main thing that he explains in the first half of the Tanya about this hava mesuteret, and he says, where did it come from? It comes from the very fact that you have a divine soul, and divine soul is an inheritance that we have from Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay? ונמצא, כשיוצאת אל הגילוי על ידי ההתבוננות, when it comes out due to your meditation, due to your learning, this type of love, the second type of love, the concealed love, אין זו הולדה חדשה מן השכל. This is not a new creation, a new
manifestation.
It's not a new type of love. It's something that you had already. And it'll be like the sfichim, the crop that grows even though you didn't do anything. There, as long as you don't need to do anything. Here you do need to do something because you have to meditate. You have to learn Torah. But it's not a new crop. It's still just a continuation of what already was there. שממנו נולדה אהבה, שהרי האהבה הזו כבר הייתה מתחילה בנפשו. רק שהייתה בהיעלם. ועל ידי ההתבוננות יצאה מן ההיעלם אל הגילוי. And this type of love, again, is just revealed. You don't create it. וזהו עניין מאמר הז"ל, נכנס יין יצא סוד. And this is what the sages were referring to when they said that, everybody says that it's hard to hear. I don't know why. They keep writing this, and you hear it fine. It's really weird. I don't understand. So. It's like third person that's written that. Now I'm checking. Sounds
Give me a
perfect.
break.
I don't know what the problem is. I just listened on headphones. It was perfect. So maybe it's a
Check
problem.
your speakers.
Speakers, or I don't know your hearing.
Check your hearing.
I don't know what to say. וזהו עניין מאמר הזה, נכנס יין יצא סוד. When wine comes in, so secrets come out. So sometimes people understand the secrets are like some kind of knowledge, some kind of secret knowledge. He says here very simply, when the sages said this, they meant that when a person drinks wine, it allows his divine soul to express itself openly. And so the secret comes out. What's the secret? That I love Hashem, I love God. The secret really is my concealed love. ויציאתה אל הגילוי הוא על ידי ההתבוננות הנקרא בשם יין יינה של תורה. So why did the sages call this wine? Why didn't they say learn Torah and then the secret comes out that you love Hashem? Because they use a metaphor. And the metaphor is that the inner teachings of the Torah, they're called יינה של Torah. They're called the wine of the Torah.
I thought they were called oil.
That's
Give me a break.
inner teachings.
Inner teachings.
Rose in the rose.
The inner teachings, the regular inner teachings, that's just the usual chassidus. Like the Rebbe used to finish his sichas usually. And now the יינה של Torah in Rashi. Meaning the chassidus within, or the Kabbalah within Rashi. There's beyond that also. That's like oil. But wine itself, and there's two different types of wine, red and white. In any case, what the wine does, it's a symbol for the itbonenut. Wine is from bina. That's how it's understood. And the razin is shemen is chokhmah. That's even something more.
Deeper.
To say it in another way, the razin don't come directly through. They don't. The Torah is only like a transistor for it, but really it flows from the infinite directly into the person. The Torah just becomes like a transistor. The three legs. One of the legs is like a a
Plus minus
variable
switch.
resistor.
Yeah.
It's like a variable resistor. So when you raise or lower the current or the potential difference there between the middle leg and the final leg, it changes the flow through the whole thing. So in Chokhmah, when you're talking about Torah as wisdom, there you're talking about the Torah as sort of like a something that changes, it shifts the ability of the divine to flow through you. But it's not coming directly through the Torah. The Torah is just it's coming through the Torah, but you're getting it from the divine, not what was already inside the Torah. It's something entirely different. Okay, so that's called...
So the Torah is purely a conduit for it.
It's a conduit. Okay? You have to get it through the Torah. But
Yeah.
You can't get it without it. You're meditating on the Torah. But what you're getting is directly from the divine. Directly from the divine is the wrong word. Directly from the infinite. Okay?
אין סוף.
ובאמת, מעלת ומדרגת האהבה זו המסותרת היא גדולה ורבה מבחינת האהבה נולדה מהתבוננות. And really, this concealed love, which is natural love, which is already innately inside, is much greater than the new love that comes out of meditation, out of new understanding. אף שזוהי הולדה חדשה וזוהי התחדשות גמורה. אף על פי כן שורשה נעלה יותר. Nonetheless, the old is better than the new. It's a very interesting concept. That you're looking for something, and another way of saying it is really that what's ingrained in you, what you have in you naturally, in this sense, is the natural is better than the new, than something that you conjure up, that you synthesize out of your own experiences.
In what respect, sorry?
Because the higher something is, the lower it goes down. So even though it seems to you that the new is greater, really the source of the natural love, which is the concealed love, is higher. It comes from a higher place than what you're mechadish, than the type of thing that you innovate, that is a new feeling inside of you.
But the soul, when it comes down, is on a much higher level than what we're likely to achieve in this lifetime, and yet it still comes down on the promise that it can get further.
Right.
If you're saying that you're relying on the previous, how can it get further?
Again, it's like to say that the higher something is, the parable is always a falling wall. And when a wall falls, so the stones that were on top fall the furthest away.
Right.
So the same way here, the love that appears in my natural, like it seems to be lower, I'm just revealing it, it's not really coming from my mind, that love, in a certain sense, is coming from a higher place.
And falls further.
That's why it came down further.
Right.
To say it another way, the love that's concealed is concealed in the heart. It's not really concealed in the mind. It is in the heart. The love that's new is love that comes out of the mind. So the simple understanding is that the love that's concealed, which is in the heart, is actually from a higher place than the love that's in the mind.
So you're saying it's in the mind of the nefesh shel bechema.
No, everything here is the nefesh elokit. Everything is the divine soul. We're learning Torah. It's not meditating. In the Rambam, he writes it's like meditating about how Hashem created the world. You look at nature. So there, it's not clear how to understand this. In the Tanya, he writes that the Rambam knew how to look at the world. He knew how to take science and reveal God through science. But today, if you look at the science today, not everybody knows how to do that. And you have to read a certain type of book in order to understand how that works, or read Sichos from the Rebbe where he explains how that works. Usually, people who learn science today, they come away with the feeling that the world is void of God. So you have to have a certain type of understanding. That's how the Rambam writes. He writes that by studying nature, you can come to this concealed
Realization,
love,
right.
or even new love.
So this is the basis on which Esav had a greater potential than
Right.
Yaakov.
Right, exactly. Theoretically, he had a greater potential. Because Yaakov's love was coming from studying into something new. Because each one of the patriarchs was like something new. Esau was a direct
There was no
descent
innovation.
from
Yeah.
Isaac himself. And in that sense, he had greater potential, because even though it appeared lower in his heart. So this, again, this goes back to the whole question of what's better, the heart or the mind. And this is a question that's never solved.
Liver boy.
What?
Hashem wants
Said-
liver boy.
As we'll see, the Alter over here is going to say that that's how you understand it initially. But really, the point has to be that you do want the mind. Now, just to say it quickly so that we can finish now and go daven. What does this have to do with the three treasures that Yosef concealed? So what we're gonna learn during the week is that the heart is really divided into three levels. Two are revealed and one is concealed. Okay? So the two that are revealed, they are represented by the two treasures that were already uncovered, by Korach and by Antoninus. And the one that's concealed, the higher third of the heart, was concealed by Joseph. In Kabbalah, that means that Yesod, the foundation, the sphere of the foundation, is concealing, is covering up 1/3 of the heart. So these are how these three treasures appear in the heart. The heart itself is divided into three. The top third is concealed. That's the treasure that was never revealed. And the bottom two parts are revealed. And so what we'll see during the rest of the week is what each one of these represents in a person's life. So there are experiences that lead a person just to feel himself, and they're very dangerous. Even though they're what we call concealed love. They're revealing the concealed love. The real concealed love is in the heart, but it's always concealed. And that's what he's going to say, that that's the type of love that was archived, that was saved for the tzadikim for the future. Okay? So we'll see this during the rest of the week.
The wrong people found it. Why should Torah find it?
Okay, so if you already said that.
Rebbe.
So
Why should Antoninus find it?
another question, why would it be likened to silver, to money? What's it got to do with money, this whole thing? Right, so we'll see that this all has to do with yearning for God, but there are different types of yearning for God. And what we'll try to understand is how this is very relevant today. It's like, what do you do with all the money that's in the world today? It's a tremendous.
It's a doctor. I don't know what you think you do with it.
Settle. So you're already hitting on what Yosef did. Yosef is a tzaddik. Tzaddik gives tzedakah. The question is, what do you give tzedakah for? Do you just give tzedakah just to enliven somebody, or is there something deeper that you have to think about when you're giving? So it could be that after you've given a lot of tzedakah, you can go back and think, wait a minute, I didn't just give the tzedakah just as charity. I did it to do something completely on a much grander scale that I can't see. I couldn't see it before, but now after you learn this, if you learn this mimer, it could be that it changes how you see all the tzedakah that you give in there.
What is the shit of the Friedrich Rebbe? Friedrich Rebbe writes in Yom Yom, the other person's sorrows, the other person's problems should affect you so much that you can't even sleep at night, worrying about what everybody else says.
That's why you'll give.
That's the.
Still need a deeper understanding.
So,
Lekrach.
we come tomorrow, best with the